Alright folks, welcome to Battle Report number 17. This is I, Commander CheapSkate, and this is the show where we show you how to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. So for today's Battle Report, it is I of the Apocalypse Now of the Orcs and Goblins versus Screamo the Emo of the Ghost Knights of Vergun of the Vampire Counts. So this is a 2,000 point army. On this Battle Report, we're changing with the format a little bit. My Battle Reports tend to run about 45 minutes in length, so I'm going to try to shorten those down now to try to do it underneath about 20 or 30 minutes, try to cut a little bit out of it. So what I decided to do is instead of showing you every single phase of the battle reports, I decided to take one massive picture at the end of each turn so that way you can see how the entire thing laid out. We just kind of narrate what happened so that way you get an idea how the battle went. If you like this format, let me know in the comments section and I'll keep going with this format. If you prefer the other format the way we've done it before, leave a comment. That way I know exactly what you, the audience, would like to see, and I'll just keep making these videos the way you like to see them. So go ahead and just tell me what kind of way you like to see these videos. And we'll move on from there. So, with that being said, let's see what happens when 2,000 points of Orcs and Goblins take on 2,000 points of Undead. Alright, with the horns of war sounding, let's go and talk about my Apocalypse Now build. This is a 2,000 point Greenskins army, so we have Orcs and Goblins. For the Lord choices, we have Grom the Paunch of the Misty Mountain. He is the general as well as the battle standard bearer, so I've always liked this character. I thought his story is kind of cool. He's very fluffy, and I just wanted to see exactly how he would work on a battlefield. So, plus he's really chubby, which is really awesome for me. You know, and plus he's a goblin. He kind of keeps toe-to-toe with your orcs, and so that's just kind of cool. Our next Lord choice is Ruga, the Stunty Flare. He's an Orc Great Shaman. He has a level 4 upgrade, Crown of Command, Fencer's Blade, as well as the Talisman of Endurance. Next comes a hero choice, the Shrieking Shroomhead. He is a Night Goblin Shaman with a level 2 upgrade and a Shrieking Blade and a Dispel Scroll, which is going to be kind of good because I'm taking on Undead and, you know, fear is a factor when it comes to that. Next comes our core choices. The first core choice is those Sneaky Gits. It is a unit of 20 Night Goblins with short bows as well as 3 Fanatics. The next unit is the Lutas, which is 20 Night Goblins armed with short bows and 3 Fanatics. Our next core choice is the War Boys, which is 40 Orc Boys with Big Guns upgrades, Standard Bearer Musician shields, as well as the Razor Standard. Our next unit is the Defed Goths, which is a 20-man unit of Black Orcs with Standard Bearer Musician as well as the Wailing Banner, so those boys cause terror, which is kind of cool. And then rounding out our army for our rare choice are Dim Kamikaze Boys, which are 2 Goblin Doomdiver Catapults, which are, by the way, just like the coolest things in the world. I mean, Strength 5, D6 hits, D6 wounds, armor piercing, no armor saves whatsoever. I mean, those things are just overpowered and they're awesome. So anyways, let's go and talk about the army concept. Basically, it is a suppress and maneuver army is basically how it works. The Goblins, Fanatics, and Doomdiver Catapults suppress the main line of the opponent and keeps them focused on the center. So the idea is that those guys kind of bog down the center line and kind of keep everything kind of choked up. Grom the Paunch provides leadership as well as rerolls. He provides combat support on the flanks if need be, and he's also there for psychology rules as well as a law special rule. So he has leadership 8, which is really good. And since he's the battle standard bearer as well, other people can also reroll failed leadership tests, so he's kind of like key in keeping things psychologically sound and safe for this army. The real killers in this army, however, are the Orc Biggins and the Black Orcs. Those guys are the maneuver element. Those are the guys who attack the enemy on the flank. So the idea is while the Goblins and Doomdivers and Fanatics kind of keep the enemy pinned in location, also kind of denies them in advance, the Orcs and Black Orcs are flanking them and hitting on the side and just kind of sweeping through the enemy line. So that is pretty much the army build for the Orcs and Goblins. Alright, now let's talk about the Ghost Knights of Vergun. It is a 2,000 point vampire count army. The Lord choice is Comte Yves Dumorn, who is the Ghost Lord of Vergun. He is a vampire lord. He has a level 4 wizard upgrade, a great weapon, shield, heavy armor, bard and nightmare, dispel scroll, and his vampiric powers are dark alkalite and summon creatures of the night. Our next hero choice is Creepy Timothy, the Zombie Lord of Shalon. He is a necromancer with a level 2 upgrade and a master of the dead. Our next core choice is the Carnival of Bone, which is 59 skeleton warriors, armed with a standard bearer musician champion as well as a screaming banner, which is always good to have for rerolling on psychology tests. Our next 2 core choices are the Walking Dead of Shalon, which is 25 zombies with a standard bearer, and the Walking Dead of San Reme with 25 zombies and a standard bearer. Our special choice are the Ghost Knights of Vergun, which are 10 Black Knights, while the Hell Knight, Standard Bearer Musician, Barding Lances, and the Banner of the Barrows. Next we have the Flying Horrors of Musion, which is 6 Fell Bats, the Mask of the Red Death, which are 5 Hex Wraiths, the Mask of the Black Death, which are 5 hex rates, and the Kontrankopf, which is 4 Blood Knights with a standard bearer. The army concept on this one, it's also a suppress and maneuver army as well. So the idea is that the skeleton warriors and the zombies suppress the main line of the enemy and keeps it kind of locked into place. The Necromancer casts Invocation to Heck to keep supplying the army with fresh dead, while the Black Knights, the Hex rates, and the Blood Knights are the real killers. Their job is to flank the main line and to crush the opponent with envelopment. The Fellbats kind of act as a screen for the cavalry to take on any incoming missile fire. The idea is they kind of absorb missile fire for the Blood Knights, and basically their job is to die. But Comte Yves du Morn's job is to quickly fill those ranks with Invocation to Heck and keep the Fellbats growing, because he also has Summon Creatures of the Night, which means those Fellbat units can grow larger than their starting size. So if he gets a couple of good rounds of magic in, he could actually make those into a real serious threat with 20 plus Fellbats. So that's basically how this army build kind of works. And plus the Fellbats are good too because they kind of block the Blood Knights. That stops them from like charging out of turn because of Frenzy. So anyways, that is the concept for this army. Alright, with that being said, let's take a look at deployment. Let's go and start with the Orcs and Goblins. Starting from the left-hand side there, you can see the big unit of 40 Black Orcs. They're kind of holding on the left flank. Next to them and kind of holding the center, towards the center, is the 40 War Boys, which are the 40 Orc Biggins. And out there in the center side there, you can see there in the front we have a unit of 20 Night Goblins with short bows as well as Fanatics. Behind them is Ground the Paunch, the General, so he's our battle center bearer as well as our General. To the flank to the right of him, protecting him from advance from the right, is another unit of 20 Night Goblins with Fanatics as well. And then behind them you have my 2 Doomdiver Catapults and Kamikaze Boys. So the layout's kind of simple really. The idea is that the Night Goblins, as well as Ground the Paunch, will kind of hold up the center, try to head straight towards the enemy center, kind of bog them down, while the Orcs kind of sweep around to the other side and sweep through and destroy anything that stands in their way. Now, deployment for the Vampire accounts on the top there, starting from the left all the way to the right, we have the Walking Dead of San Reme, which are 25 zombies. Right there in the center, you have a huge block of 60 skeleton warriors in horde formation with their Necromancer, level 2 Necromancer, so that is a big hunking chunk of troops. Right next to them is another unit of 25 zombies as well. In the center there, you have 6 Fellbats. Behind them, you have the General Comte Yves du Morn with his 5 Blood Knights. Next to them, you have the unit of 10 Black Knights, and then hiding out between the building and the wall, on the very far right, are the 2 units of 5 Hex rates. And so for his army, it's pretty much simple as well. His skeletons and zombies is kind of like their job is to do what my goblins do. They're there to anchor and kind of suppress and tar pit any attacking forces, while his cavalry units on the right-hand side there sweep through the attack. So it's kind of neat. We have kind of like this yin-yang kind of formation going on. My flankers on the left, his flankers are on my right. My suppressing elements on my right, his suppressing elements on his left. So both of our flanking elements are going to be bogged down by our suppression elements. So it's going to be kind of neat to see how this battle kind of plays out. So that's deployment.
The age of men is over. The time of the Orc has come.
Alright, and with that starts us off with turn number 1 for the Orcs and Goblins. As you can see from this picture, pretty much all my forces move forward. Orcs kind of move in to kind of defend the flank of my Night Goblins. Night Goblins move forward to occupy the center of the formations, while Ground the Paunch kind of shuffles to the right a little bit to defend the flanks. What happens during the magic phase, I manage to get off Hand of Gorkov on my unit of Black Orcs. I basically teleport them to the left-hand side of the battlefield to kind of get a nice little flank charge along the entire main line at that point. So pretty much that was how it laid out. Shooting phase is actually pretty good. I fired both of my shots of my Doomdiver Catapults into the Black Knights. In the midst of the Black Knights and the Blood Knights, kind of right in between those 2 units there, one of my units veered off to the right, managed to kill 2 Black Knights in the process, while my Rockstar of a catapult guy on the left-hand side, he veered to the left and took out 3 Blood Knights. So, awesome job on that part, on that one. And we also managed to kill, I think, a Fellbat as well at the same time. So, at the same time, also for the magic phase, you also manage to cast off sneaking stabbings on my unit of colorful Night Goblins, which is in the center, and they got armor piercing on that one. So pretty much that is the turn number 1 for the Orcs and Goblins. To all my AC/DC fans out there, yes, I'm aware I just cut the intro to Hell's Bells. But you know what? Hell's Bells is a pretty cool song, but I don't have time to play all 5 minutes of that super long intro of Hell's Bells, even though it's pretty epic. So anyways, As I was saying, we are now at the beginning of Vampire Counts turn number 1. So this is the photo that took place after the turn. As you can see for the charges, right there in the center from my Night Goblins, the Hex Wraiths charge into that unit. And when they did that, they basically triggered all of my Fanatics for both of my Night Goblin units to do that. My first set of Night Goblins charged right through the Hex Wraiths, couldn't cause any damage because of Ethereal, so that didn't do me any good. And my other unit of Night Goblins had to deploy their Fanatics as well. So those Fanatics are right there in the center of the board, the 3 pure ones, and they're kind of holding up the mess there that you're starting to see on the Cavalry side. Because of that, the Fanatics being released, Scream of the Emo decided to charge his Fellbats directly at my Night Goblin unit and sent all 5 remaining of his Fellbats right to the 3 of the Fanatics, basically suicide squatted them so that way those Fanatics were moved out of play. Now the ones he has to worry about are the ones on the right-hand side occupying the center, so that's what he's got to worry about. Pretty much for the rest of his formations, he charged his zombies on the left-hand side. They were able then to see the arc view of my Black Orcs, so the zombies on the left-hand side of the main block kind of charged into my Black Orcs, so that kind of sucked. Wasn't really anticipating that. He basically marches his Skeleton Warriors as well as his zombies forward towards my main centers as well. He also marches his Hex Wraiths as well as his Blood Knights as well as his remaining Blood Knight through that little area there and try to kind of go around my right-hand flank. That square patch of brown right there in the middle, that's proxied marsh. So because of that, it's dangerous terrain. So, which is no problem for Vampire Counts because they can maneuver pretty well. Magic phase for this army was actually kind of a wash because I was managed able to dispel all of their spells. So that part was kind of cool. Since there's no shooting in this army, there's no combat. That pretty much sums up turn number 1 for the Vampire Counts.
The age of men is over. The time of the Orc has come.
And with that, that takes us to the beginning of Orcs and Goblins turn number 2. As you can see from the movement phase, not much movement was going on because things were pretty much engaged in hand-to-hand combat. The War Boys kind of shuffle a little bit to the left to kind of receive the charge of that the unit of Skeleton Warriors will be making here soon. Looking back now, I probably should have charged that unit of Skeleton Warriors instead of hesitating, but I was trying to kind of coordinating the maneuver of all my troops so that way my next turn on turn number 3, I could call forth the WA special rule and start to get those combat bonuses, but you know, I also forgot I'm also fighting undead, so what does that really matter because nobody really breaks. But anyways, the Orcs kind of shuffle there a little bit to the left-hand side there. My unit of Night Goblins on the far right-hand side as well as Ground the Punch kind of position themselves to maneuver a bit in order to receive the charge from the Hex Wraiths as well as the Black Knights. Magic phase is actually pretty phenomenal in this one. Basically, my Shaman got off the spell, the Curse of the Bad Moon, got an irresistible force, so he kind of swept right through the ranks of that Hex Wraith unit, also managed to kill another one of those Black Knights, and also managed to kill the last remaining of the Blood Knights and the General's unit, so that was kind of nice. The problem is that because he cast Irresistible, I rolled like, I think, 12 on that one, so he lost all of his Wizarding levels, lost all his Paradise, so basically he's just a Goblin that's kind of holding out in the center there. For combat, as you can see in the picture in this one, the Night Goblins in the center, just through combat resolution alone, was able to vaporize and crumble check that unit of Hex Wraiths, so they're now kind of turned candy corner, and I kind of did this on purpose. I turned them in such a way that they could be charged in the flank by the zombies, but because of the weird angling on that unit, if the zombies do try to charge into the flank of my Goblins, it'll be an illegal charge because they will not be able to fully rank up properly against the unit of Night Goblins because of the way that they'll be wedged in between the Orcs as well as the Night Goblins as well. So it counts as a failed charge. Since I can't close a door since my unit is on the flank, it counts as a legal charge. So cunning and sneaky as well. So that would be common on that side. As you can see in the close combat phase for the right-hand side, left-hand side there with the zombies for my Black Orcs, those zombies didn't stand a chance. So now I'm kind of set up for a wonderful flank charge on that unit of Skeleton Warriors. So that'd be kind of nice as well. As for shooting phase wasn't really all that impressive. Both of my Doom Diver catapults missed, so and that pretty much rounds it up. All right, that takes us to the beginning of turn number 2 for the vampire count. So you can see in this photo for the movement phase, pretty much you send kind of things charging things forward. The skeleton warriors charge into my unit of regular orcs, the war boys. The zombies on the right hand side of that unit of skeleton warriors charge to the flank of my night goblins, but they fail because of, as I mentioned before, the way they were angled. They couldn't really close a gap on that one, so it was kind of ended up being a failed charge for them. So they only stumbled forward a couple of inches. On the right hand side, the hex wraiths charge into my night goblin archers right there, right next to ground the paunch. The Black Knights try to do exactly the same thing, but unfortunately for them, they kind of failed, and so they didn't go very far either. And the general basically kind of moved a little bit and to kind of get himself in position to charge my Night Goblins the next turn as well. Basically, he's kind of hesitating because those fanatics, he doesn't know where those guys are going for the next round. For the magic phase, they basically try to cast off several versions of the Invocation of Nehek. That spell accidentally went through because I tried to stop Van Hel's Dance Macabre, and I also tried to stop Curse of Years as well, so that didn't work out too well for me. But the Skeleton Warriors ranks increased by 11, and same thing with the zombies, so they had a lot of guys. Since this army doesn't believe in shooting, there was no shooting going on. But in the combat phase, though, as you can see, my orcs basically just destroyed that unit of skeleton warriors right in the middle there. We basically cut those boys in half. Those orc boys with the Biggins rules and choppas, I mean, those guys just chopped that unit right in half. I mean, I think we killed something like 11 skeleton warriors in the first round with combat res. Because of the standard as well as the rank bonuses, we killed something like 11 more dudes. It was crazy how it all worked out in the end, but we basically chopped that unit in half. I didn't lose a single orc in that battle whatsoever, so that part was kind of cool as well. That green, let's see here, that's pretty much it for this one. So yeah, that was turn number 2 for the vampire counts.
The age of men is over. The time of the orc has come.
As you can see in this picture, for turn number 3 for the Orcs and Goblins, movement wasn't really all that impressive. Basically, I marched my black Orcs and kind of wheeled them in a formation so that way they can charge in the rear of either the zombie unit there on the right-hand side or to the back of the skeleton warriors, where the target might have presented itself an opportunity. My Night Goblins that were kind of securing the flank of the, the flank of the war boys also turns to face the zombies as well. The reason why I did that is because they're angled in such a way with my other Night Goblin unit that the Black Knights really can't charge the flanks of any of those units. I'll have to take them on head on, which could buy me some precious time if that kind of works out as well. As for the magic phase, my magic phase is pretty much shut down. Shooting phase is also kind of a joke as well. My Doom Diver catapults, one missed completely. I was not able to redirect whatsoever. The other one got a misfire, so he was out for this turn as well as for the next turn. So that part was kind of sad too. Magic phase, as I said before, magic phase is kind of useless. Hand-to-hand combat phase, as you can see there, we basically chopped down a little some more skeleton warriors. That unit is now up to a third of its own strength, its previous strength, so that's pretty nice. I lose a couple of orcs in my troubles, but at this point, the losses are menial compared to all the amount of orcs that I got left to just chop things up. So that was pretty much turn number 3 for Orcs and Goblins. Alright, turn number 3 for the vampire counts was kind of a major change for these guys. So with the movement phase, what happens is the Black Knight charged into one of my original units of Night Goblins. So we'll talk about combat later on though, that side. As you can see, that didn't go very well. In the center of the unit of zombies also charged my unit of Night Goblins in the center as well. And as you can see there, the general also moved forward up as well to kind of get into a charging position somewhere later on down the line. For the magic phase was actually kind of uneventful. They tried to cast a couple really big version of Invocation Nehek. I only had 4 dice. They had like 6, I think. They used 4 and 4, so I basically tried to dispel it. Was able to stop the huge spell of Invocation Nehek from going off. However, Scream of the Emo had 2 power dice left, and he basically cast Raise the Dead. As you can see there in the center of the page there, I have now 13 zombies that I was not prepared to deal with whatsoever. And so because I'm kind of in trouble. For the shooting phase, they had no shooting. For combat, let's start with the right-hand side. That unit of Black Knights basically just steamrolled right over my unit of Night Goblins. overran and then charged right into Ground the Paunch. So Ground the Paunch has now been charged by Black Knights. He's kind of in dire straits because those guys are kind of tough. And now he also has a unit of zombies behind. He's got to worry about these guys giving a rear charge. So much for calling in the wall at this point, because he has to be able to charge in order to call that special rule in. So that's now completely out. Combat there on the left-hand side of my orc, the war boys with the big guns. We eventually destroyed that unit of skeleton warriors, and we also killed the necromancer at the same time as well. So that was kind of nice. We also combat reformed to kind of turn to face the unit of zombies that are grappling with my night goblins at this point. So that was pretty much combat for this turn for Vampire Counts turn number 3.
The age of men is over. The time of the orc has come.
And that takes us to the top of turn number 4 from the movement phase. As you can see there, basically I charged my war boys into the flank of the zombies. That was all I could really do. I tried to reform my fleeing night goblins on the bottom of the page, but bottom of the screen there, but they weren't able to do it whatsoever, so they kept on fleeing as well. For the magic phase, the real star on this one was Hand of Gork again. I cast Hand of Gork on my black orcs, basically teleport those guys about a good 24 inches, landed next to those walls in order to do a wonderful little flame charge on both the general as well as his black knights when the time came. Now, luckily for me, though, that never really happened because we got to the shooting phase. In the shooting phase, both of my Doom Diver catapults were able to attack. The first Doom Diver, I shot him right at the general, basically missed him by a long shot, couldn't really affect him, so I redirected them towards the zombies there, as you see on the bottom of the page. Took out quite a bit of those guys with that one. I think I took out like 5 of them with that one. Now, the big star was the Doom Diver catapult on the right-hand side. He rolls to shoot, and he misfires, but he misfires 5. Now, the rule states when he misfires, basically what happens is he just goes... He basically gets shot early, basically flies along the ground, and hits the first thing that comes within whatever he runs into line of sight. Now, the way he was going with line of sight, though, he was actually aiming right towards the general, misses my general by about half an inch, and still manages to hit the enemy general right in the line, inflicts 2 wounds, kills the general, so now the Vampire Lord is dead. Because the Necromancer in the previous turn was killed in hand-to-hand combat, this army has basically nothing to go off of, so all the units now start taking crumbling checks. The zombies, they crumble to dust. The Black Knights, they lose another one of their guys as well. The zombies also lose, the newly raised zombies also lose half their guys. And at this point, that's when my opponent basically calls the game. So as you can see in this picture, basically the rest of the undead army is basically crumbling. I still got a lot of orcs and goblins still left over. Basically, all I really lose is 1 unit of night goblins out of all this. So that's pretty awesome. So with that being said, let's go on to the after action report.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
All right, this is the after action report. This is the part of the show we talk about what went well, what went bad, and what we learned about this battle to prepare for the next battle report. And so for this battle, this ended up being a victory for Commander CheapSkate. So the reason why I'm going with the Orc and Goblin army, especially at 2,000 points, usually my battles are at 3,000 points, but the reason why I'm doing it for 2,000 is because this is practice for a slow growth league that is taking place in my local game shop. And so we're having all these armies being put in. We got about like 15 players being involved in the slow growth league with all kinds of different armies. And the reason why I wanted to use this as a practice is because I'm playing with my Orcs and Goblins. Now, most of the time, the armies I usually play with when it comes to tournaments and things like that, I usually have 3 main armies that I really use. It's either my High Elf army, my Empire army, or my Chaos army, which is why these armies are also painted on my videos, because those are the armies I have painted because they're the armies I use the most. But this time around for the Slow Growth League, I wanted to get out of my comfort zone. I just wanted to try something I never played before, which is really Orcs and Goblins. And I heard a lot of people talking a lot of bad stuff about this army. On the flip side, though, I saw a lot of people love this army, and I found out that when it comes to the gaming community, either you really hate this army or you really love this army. There's like no one really in the middle on it. So I decided, okay, let's try it out and see what it was. And it's a lot of fun. I really had a blast playing these guys. It was like, it's really fun playing these guys. Very unexpected. What I like about it was all the randomness of all their rules. You just don't know what's going to happen next. So I thought that was kind of neat. Not having anything to really rely on. You just kind of go with it. And so that was kind of fun doing it for me. For the next time, though, when I play this game, I know next time that I can't hesitate with this army. I just need to charge is what I need to do. Orcs and Goblins are designed for fighting. That's what they do. That's what the fluff is all about. They like fighting. And the rules also help that out because they get a strength bonus when they charge in and fight in the first round of combat. So next time, no hesitation. I'll just charge in next time. This army build basically focuses on leadership with all of its magical items and things like that, which is huge for Orcs and Goblins because for Orcs and Goblins, leadership is a major handicap. So I decided to focus on that a little bit so that way they can work it out, which was kind of nice because psychology wasn't really much of an issue in this battle because I had pretty decent leadership scores to go off of, and animosity was also not much of an issue. I keep on hearing players talking about how much animosity is horrible, but you basically have a 1 to 6 chance of making that happen. So, with my units, I only have 4 units, and 2 of them are horde formations, so that reduced the number of possible failures with just that alone. So that was kind of nice as well. So still having a blast with the army. I think it's a lot of fun to play. I'm looking forward to the next battle I'll be playing. So yeah, that pretty much sums it up for this battle report. As for the format, this is a new format I'm experimenting with. As you can see, this video will be a little bit under 25 minutes, so that's kind of nice. So tell me what you think. So leave your comments below in the videos. Tell me if you like my video reports with this method, or if you prefer the older method, because I'll basically make it the way you guys want to see them. So with that, on to the next one. See you guys later. Bye.